Those of you watching, wherever you're watching, there's the wristband. There's the numerous IV trouble finding. So I got 1, 2, 3 times they stuck me.
Sheesh.
I'm like the guy on Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah, covered in holes.
Hero. And Jacob, I took off 2 days after my colonoscopy. And the doctor's like, so just go home and relax because a lot of the drugs are still in your system. You're going to feel kind of woozy for about a day. I'm here!
Yeah, you were here within an hour.
Let me just say something. You can put a tube where the sun don't shine, and I continue to do my job.
That sounds like a lot of work.
All right. Congratulations to Shon Barnes, who moves from Madison, Wisconsin, chief of police there, gets a job here in Seattle. Big job. This has to be a guy that has the backs of the cops. That was the biggest problem in Seattle. Chief Diaz, not exactly getting a lot of warm and fuzzies from the men and women that are on the street trying to uphold the laws. So we did a little digging, and we called a journalist in Madison, and we wanted to know, so what was Barnes like when he was in Madison? And was he a cop's cop? Did he have the guys with him? Because that's always the problem, because these chiefs of police, in Seattle anyway, are appointed by the mayor. And then if it gets too political, cops that are on the beat are like, guy doesn't care about us. He's not fighting for us. We got to go to the union. So we called, and we spoke to a journalist there. What did we find out, Joe?
He said that everybody, almost to a man in Madison, is very sad to lose this chief.
That's good.
The cops have nothing but respect for him. Respect was a word he used over and over again, that they absolutely love this guy. He went to bat for them even when it didn't look great for himself. We couldn't say enough good things about this.
Yeah, so this is important because the city says that we need to hire more cops. They can't hire more cops. They don't want to work there. Hey, we'll give you $50,000. We'll transfer, give you a bonus here, give you this, give you everything we possibly can. Still, they can't get their numbers up because these guys sniff this stuff out and still smells like a crappy place to work. So if you get a good chief in there that they respect, well, then you might start to have some of the cops in Seattle to say to some people that are over in Federal Way or Bellevue, hey, come over to Seattle. You'll like working in Seattle. We got a good chief. So congratulations on Bruce Harrell, the mayor, who chooses Barnes. So is this the beginning of changing the culture? Then do we have police officers that are able to enforce the law, are able to take people and put them in jail? All we got to do now, just fix the judges. Get judges that do not, from the bench in the robes, decide they're going to create social justice, because there's no such thing as social justice. There's just justice. So if we could get good people to run against these judges that run unopposed, we could actually start to see the crime go down in this city of Seattle, like other cities across the United States. But right now, we still have that one missing link, which is to have judges that don't go in there with an ideological bent in order to create social justice for everybody. The only problem I had with Barnes is something he said back in 2022.
We have a lot of things that are legal, but is it the right thing to do? We have to rise above that. And sometimes it requires an evolution of our thinking. What was written in 1789 may not be appropriate for 2022 unless we're okay with kids being killed.
You're referencing the Second Amendment?
Yes, I am.
Uh-oh. He's got some problems with the Second Amendment, so then you got to bring in Bill Kirk from the Washington gun law. So, Mr. Kirk, when you hear that, that must send shivers up your spine that the possible new police chief here, if appointed and voted affirmatively for by the city council, he's got some problems with that Second Amendment there, Mr. Kirk.
Well, that would make him consistent with our state legislature. So thank you for having me.
Sure.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here. What I would say to Chief Barnes, and I'm sure that he had to check certain political boxes to make sure he was copacetic with the city of Seattle.
Yeah.
But if really the Second Amendment was just stuck in amber like it was in the late 1700s? Are we suggesting that the First Amendment doesn't protect any type of speech that we engage in electronically nowadays? Or are we saying that the First Amendment, which there was only 9 organized religions back when we ratified our Constitution, that the freedom of religion would only apply to those 9 religions, and any other religion to come subsequent to that would not be protected, but right? Or forms of modern surveillance that we can conduct. Did the Fourth Amendment only protect agents just kicking your door down and rummaging through things? Because that's the only way they could search you in 1798.
Right.
But nowadays we got all forms of electronic surveillance. So obviously the Constitution grows with the country, and the case law is consistent with that, going through cases such as Heller, McDonald, most recently Bruin, and things such as that.
And there have been 17 changes to the Constitution. It does take a very, very heavy lift. The founders of this great country knew. They said, "Listen, we want to write this stuff. We want to make it very difficult to change this." So they have put in place that you can change things like this. But the idea, I made the argument yesterday, Bill. It's not about access to guns. It's not about if we were to stop people from having guns, then we would see the crime go down, because the old adage, which, if you make guns illegal, only outlaws will have guns. The reason kids are killing kids it has really nothing to do with guns. It has to do with a bigger issue that cannot be legislated. But that aside, so you are a little concerned, but again, this isn't going to go anywhere. I think he's just saying that because he's reacting, I think, to a school shooting or something. As you see what's coming down the pike as they head back to Olympia, what are some of your concerns for gun owners in the state of Washington?
Yeah, I have several concerns. The first one is a permit to purchase. Now, they made a run at that last legislative session and ended up getting watered down considerably to where it's just an educational class. But Representative Berry has already pre-filed a bill where she's going to try to beef this back up into a full licensing scheme, and this is the ability to go purchase. So you're going to be required to go through a background check before you can go through a background check. The other thing people and your listeners need to understand
Bill, what are they going to look for in the first check? What are they going to try to find in the first check?
The same thing that they're going to look for in the second check.
Okay. It's a speed bump. Just slow you down. Just to slow you down. Okay.
Well, and that's it. It's an impediment because they'll add a cost to it.
Sure.
They might add live fire training and make that virtually impossible to find. We've seen this in other states already. But there's no other constitutional right. You don't need to get a license to go to church on Sunday. You don't need a license to go out and speak freely, but for whatever reason, the Second Amendment is always treated as that disfavored, redheaded stepchild of a right.
Yeah. So, by the way, on the live fire thing, if that thing did pass, they tried to float this thing last year. What it would say, or 2 years ago, what it say is, okay, if you want to get a gun, before you can actually purchase the gun, you're going to have to sign up for classes. And then they knew this would cause problems because it would cost money, right? There would be the impediment of cash to be paid for it. Then also, who is teaching the class? How many of these teachers are out there? Knowing they would make it really hard for the instructors to pass the test. So you would have a limited amount of instructors. So you say, okay, I want to buy a gun. I want to protect my home. I don't feel safe. Aren't enough cops. I want to purchase a gun. My Second Amendment right. And then they would go, okay, all you need is fill out this form, and sign up for a class. And then you go to call to sign up for the class, and you'll go onto a website or something, and then it'll say, you have 6 months, 10 days, and 3 hours until you can take that class. And then at that point,
the class costs $750 on top of it or something like that.
Right. So all they want to do is put as many roadblocks in front of you as possible. How about the idea they would start to make you sign up or at least give your name and number if you want to buy ammunition?
Well, I'm concerned that there's going to be a bill that will require Washington residents to purchase ammunition, when they purchase ammunition, to actually go through a full 4473 background check as if you were purchasing a firearm. And interestingly, of course, when you take a look at Washington statute, federal law prohibits a felon or a prohibited person from being in possession of firearms and ammunition. Washington state law, however, only prohibits a person from being in possession of a firearm if they're ineligible. So I don't know what exactly would be the purpose here, but then, of course, that would increase the cost. And I actually, knowing I was going to do the show, talked to a gun store just before I got on air, asked what was going to be the normal cost of running a background check on that. And they said it would be somewhere between $15 and $20. Well, that's a cost that they got to pass on to the consumer.
Sure.
It's bad business if they don't. And so now your purchase of ammunition, which since it requires a background check, you can't purchase it online because the online retailers won't sell it to you. So you go into your gun store, in addition to the ammunition tax that they've added to each round, you're also paying an additional fee for the background check. So a box of ammunition that might cost you $15 at Cabela's is now going to cost you $40 at Cabela's.
How about the additional cost that is now on gun stores? They put this thing in place where you have to have a certain number of video cameras. You have to then store the amount of all the video has to store in a hard drive that has to be accessible, and the additional cost to each and every one of these gun stores. Did that thing get passed? I know they tried to
that was
smooth it
House
out.
Bill 21. Yeah, House Bill 2118 did get passed. Goes into effect this July. Been working with some FFLs right now, trying to figure out some cost-efficient ways to comply with the statutes. But the purpose of the statute was to create or force FFLs to retrofit their buildings to such a degree that it would be cost prohibitive to do it and drive them all out of business. Now, just before I got on the air with you, Julie Barrett from Conservative Ladies of Washington sent me a new pre-filed bill, Senate Bill 5099, which apparently adds on to this law with more onerous restrictions. I still need to review it, but you're talking about adding on to more onerous restrictions of a law that hasn't even gone into effect yet.
I know, and I don't remember off the top of my head because I had a colonoscopy 2 hours ago. I'm going to mention that numerous times.
Solid work today.
Thank you.
Really.
So what is the and I saw one of the gun stores saying, if you do this, you make this thing, you put this in place for us. I think the cost they said was going to be, do you remember what it was?
Well, it was originally, the original bill would have cost each of the gun stores about somewhere around $300,000 because the types of servers that they would have needed would have had to have the buildings retrofitted for those types of servers to actually function. So it did get watered down significantly, but it's still very, I mean, you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars that these FFLs need to invest. And if you're Cabela's or someplace like that, no problem. But if you're Joe's Gun Shop that's been supporting East Wenatchee for 40 years, you know, how do you do that?
Or Fall City Gun Shop. I get my guns at Fall City, or I go to Ellensburg to the pawn shop there. I went in there and I asked.
Taft County Trading.
Yes, those are the guys.
Of course, those are the guys.
Those are the guys.
They saw the guys over there. Yeah,
Bill, they saw me coming because when Inslee decided he was going to save everybody by not allowing you to buy the scary guns, right?
Right.
So I walked in. I said, the guy goes, "Can I help you?" I walked in with my son, and I said, "Yeah, I want to buy a FU Inslee gun." And he said, "Right this way." And he walked me over. Now, Bill, I had no idea what I was looking at, but I wanted my son there to see me, my Second Amendment right. And the guy pointed all the guns, and I said to Rye, "Okay, Rye, which is the scariest gun?" Because they basically don't like scary-looking guns. And Rye, he goes, "I think the one on the end." And the guy goes, that's a pretty scary looking gun. She takes it down, shows it to me. He explains the whole thing. And then those guys at the kit attach, they must have known that I had some money, because then all of a sudden I had optics on the thing that cost me $1,000. And by the time I finished with the credit card, we walk out, and Rye goes, "So how do you feel about spending $2,300 for your First Amendment right?" I said, "Rye, it's a Second Amendment, and secondly, it's the principle. It's the principle of the thing."
Hey, listen, freedom ain't free sometimes. Okay.
Just looking into your crystal ball, Bill Kirk from the Washington Gun Law. By the end of the session that's coming up, will things get better for people that would like to defend themselves, their homes, and their loved ones? Or will things get a little harder if you'd like to use a gun?
They're going to get, I think, considerably more difficult, because I think what we're going to have, in addition to the things that we've already talked about today, is I think you're going to have a very strong effort to repeal state preemption. And every time I do a video on my channel, nobody watches it. So no one seems to be interested in it, but they're all going to be interested in it when it happens. Because if you think it's bad what the state of Washington can do to your gun rights, just turn the reins over to the city of Seattle, King County, city of Edmonds, places like that.
Yeah, so what you're saying on that is, so people that don't watch, I do watch, what you're saying is right now under the law, it's the state that has the rules when it comes to where you can carry all this other stuff. What they want to do is break it down to let each one of the cities have their own gun laws that would then supersede anything else that might be in place in the state of Washington.
Correct.
That's it.
Okay. And so what you would have is, if you're on a road trip across the state, you're literally going to go from legal to illegal to legal to illegal. You go through this tapestry of gun laws. And at least, as much as we dislike what Washington State does to our gun laws, at least there is uniformity. Okay. You have the same gun laws when you're out on the coast as you do when you're in Spokane, and everywhere in between. And so that allows laws to be predictable and allows citizens to know them. But once we create this wide tapestry of crazy gun laws, what happens when the city of Seattle says, we think a 3-round magazine limit is good here? What happens?
Right.
What do we do? It's the Full Employment Act of 2025 for guys like me, because we'll have litigation for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, you'll be happy.
I don't think that's what they're. Yeah, but I don't think that's what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is disarm the lawful and responsible gun-owning Washington residents. You know
what's so weird as we say goodbye to you on this Friday here, Bill? With all the gun laws they have in place, I was looking at the homicide. It's weird. People still keep killing people with guns. Do we just need more laws?
Yeah, I think we're just a few laws away from it, John. We'll turn the corner any moment now.
That's what that's exactly what we need.
Any minute now.
Any minute. All right. Well, listen, you have yourself a fabulous holiday. Great Christmas to you, Mr. Kirk. I'll continue, even though no one else watches your videos. I watch them. Hang in there with your 4 views. All right?
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.